Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Delicious Living with Katie May, the founder and creator of the culinarygym.com, where it's about creating more vitality, health, flavor, and joy so that you can live your most delicious life. So I'm so glad you're here with me today. We are making baked and loaded breakfast yams, and there's many ways you can load them up, all different variations of nutrition, flavor, and calorie density, which is really important for weight loss. So I'm going to show you guys some fantastic options here. We have, to start with, our potatoes. Well, you could do this with potatoes, but our sweet potatoes slash yams. Sweet potatoes are generally thought of as more of a lighter color, and not as much as the skin. We're not talking about the skin as much as the inside. Sweet potatoes are often thought of as a light white yellowish color, and then yams are more of the orange color. Now this is just kind of something that we've grown up with. I think people have been kind of just, I guess, trained without much connection to what's actually happening in the field, what the farmers are actually growing. And the true nature of sweet potatoes are that they're sweet in flavor, and yams are more sweet. So it's like the difference between a banana, sweet banana, and a plantain that's not so sweet. Of course, plantains, especially if you have sensitive taste buds, plantains still have a sweetness, and even more so when they're roasted. So yams would be about the same, similar. And so the yams that we think of here in the United States are actually sweet potatoes, because because they have the sweet flavor, and they are not nearly as big as yams would be, much bigger. So you might find them in a few places like South Carolina, or over in I'm not sure exactly where, but in Latin, South America, and Africa as well, you'll find big yams, and they're not going to be as sweet. So when you, just something to know, yams and sweet potatoes in a recipe, they're interchangeable. Okay, so today we're making these loaded breakfast yams. So when we load a yam or sweet potato up, we want to choose one that is going to be easy to fill. Okay, so I think rather than having a long sweet potato, we want to have one that's a little bit shorter and wider. Okay, it could be long and wide, but then it's going to be really big, and it's depending on your calorie needs, it will likely be too much if you have a really long and wide sweet potato. So I would opt for a little bit shorter and wider. This one is a little shorter, but not actually that wide. But that's okay. Again, it depends on your calorie needs, how big of a potato you want, because ideally for this recipe, you want to be able to eat the full potato, just from a presentation standpoint. And if you can't, by any means, you can just cut it in half and enjoy half of it at a time. But I would recommend not making the full, you can bake the whole sweet potato and even more than one at a time. And I recommend that so that you have these for multiple servings throughout the week. But don't prepare, meaning don't cut open and top what you're not going to have in the moment, okay? So I'm going to put these guys aside, and we have our sweet potatoes right here out of the oven. I have two just pulled out. So let me know how it's going in the comments too. I'll check in with you guys there in just a minute. These sweet potatoes, so that you have these for multiple servings throughout the week. But don't prepare, just don't know how that. So we have these fully cooked already. You can feel on the outside that they're soft, they're getting soft. And you can have a sense, the more you cook, the more you are doing sweet potatoes and checking them in this way, you can get a sense of when they're done, when they're ready. And this varies so much depending on the size. And sometimes you can't find sweet potatoes that are the same size or the same width or close enough. And so you might need to pull one out ahead of time. And if you notice that they're not as soft as you need them and you're on a time constraint, right? You need them at a certain time. What I do is just cut them down the center. So you're opening it up and allowing more heat to get in to cook the center a little faster, okay? An alternative, if you are really want these done faster, because these were in the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, non-convection oven for an hour. And they turned out great, but if you wanted to have these done in 30 minutes, I would cut them in half and put them face down on the parchment paper, and that will still work fantastically for this recipe. So if you are someone who doesn't want as much, that's another way to cook these, is just to put them flat with the flesh down and put them in the oven for about 30 minutes, and they'll turn out fantastic. Okay, so we have a couple plates here. I add these two. You can see the sugars just starting to form on the bottom. When those sugars start coming out, that's a sign that your sweet potato is super tasty. And it's often a sign that you want to not let it cook for too much longer. Sometimes I would just let the sweet potatoes go longer and they would just develop more and more sweetness, but eventually they would actually brown on the inside of the skin. And that's not a horrible thing. I wouldn't recommend eating it. If you can avoid that browning on the skin, on the inside, then you can enjoy the full skin yourself, take in all those nutrients. And if that's organic, that's what I would recommend. If you're not using organic sweet potatoes or yams, then leave that skin and don't consume the skin, because that's where a lot of the pesticides would be held. So if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. This is going to come together next, so I don't want to miss any questions before I say goodbye. We have a recipe for you. If you didn't get the recipe in the email, then opt in to let me share it here in the comments. I don't have an assistant today, so I'm just gonna share the link so that you can get our featured recipe of the week, which is these yams. And this will opt you into my email list as well, and I can send you the printable, downloadable recipe. Okay, if you go to the website, the recipe doesn't have a print and it's really easy. So this is the best way to get that. Opt into my email list, and I want to let you know that cookbooks, I have 4 e-cookbooks that are going to be offered this weekend. So if you get into the email list, I'll be sending you notification of how you can get the cookbooks. I have a Mexican, Italian, dessert, and a potato cookbook, and I made them a couple years ago, but I'm bringing them back, and so this is the first time in a while that those will be offered to you. $25 for all 4 cookbooks, and it's well over 100 recipes, probably 150 maybe, and they're all fantastic. So that being said, let's get started with this one. These sweet potatoes here, this one is already cut open, and you can see I cut it right down the middle. How close are we here? But you can kind of squeeze it with your fingers to open it up a little bit more, and that worked pretty well. An alternative is to cut the sweet potato down the middle and then go in the opposites, either once or twice depending on the size of your potato, and then you can kind of push these open. You can use your fingers if it's cool enough, but those skins will, you could even cut it a little bit, kind of mix it up so it's prepared for you to dive in. Okay, and then we'll do the same here, kind of little sectional cuts. And then we've got our toppings, okay? I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do this. We'll put one of these aside for a moment, and we're going to do, which one? Let's do pear. And I'm going to switch to my knife here. So a piece of fresh fruit, depending on, again, calorie needs, you could do 1 large piece of fruit or 2 small ones. Or if you're doing berries, it would be like a cup of berries would be about the equivalent, and more or less depending on your needs. Right? Fruit is mostly sugars, simple sugars, but packaged as a whole food. So you're getting all of the vitamins and the minerals and the phytonutrients and the fiber and the water. So these are just an amazing, it's like nature's candy. It's an amazing food group to get into our diet. We do not want to skimp on it, okay? If you're worried about your weight, the first thing I would reduce is the amount of fat that we add. I'm not saying to eliminate the fat unless you know that's what you need to do for yourself, but definitely have less fat before you have less fruit, okay? So now we're going to add this all in here, and depending again on the size of your sweet potato, this may fit nicely in the center and the size of your fruit, of course, or you may want to actually kind of add some of the fruit to the outside or just pile it up there in the center. Okay. And then we have some nuts to add. So I have some flaxseed, or this is our walnuts here. I'm just going to crumble a little bit of walnuts over top. Again, how much depends on you. I have a recipe for this and I have specific amounts, but I want to encourage you, don't follow those amounts as much as you follow your intuition about what's good for you. Okay? And then I'm going to add a little bit of coconut. Coconut, again, is a saturated fat here, so this is kind of an extra treat. And a little cinnamon. Okay. Again, I'm at a healthy weight and active, so what I do isn't necessarily what I would prepare someone else who's looking for weight loss. Okay. I want a little more cinnamon on this guy. And again, you could do chia seed, flaxseed, it's up to you. But basically, you have your starch, so that's complex carbohydrates fueling you for the day. You have a little bit of the simple sugar from fruits, so that's the glucose that's going to get you started right away, get your brain going, whether it's for work or just getting dressed and started with the day around the house. And a little bit of the healthy nuts, whole food, whole nuts. Unroasted is my go-to. But the roasted gives you a little extra flavor when you want that. So this is breakfast on the weekends that allows you to go a little more decadent, which I'll show you in just a minute. You can use nuts ahead of time. And if you're doing seeds, if you're doing flax or chia seed, I recommend grinding them first. I'm going to pull some out for our next potato. Grind those first so you really get all of the nutrients. But pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds would also be great, and you don't need to grind those ahead of time. Okay, like I said, we'll pull out our flax. Here, I keep my chia and my flax ground and whole in the freezer, and I can just easily pull it out. That way, I'm preserving the nutrition and the flavor more so. Okay. Again, if you guys have any questions, put them in the comments and start your comment with question, all caps, so it's easy to see. Next item here, I have my potato, you already saw. We're gonna make a dressing to go with this one, okay? So I just wanna combine, I've got half a cup of almond butter here, and I'm not gonna use all of this on this recipe, but to make this in a blender this size, we need to do a larger volume, and then I also will be able to enjoy this all week long, okay? And this is the type of sauce that could be over breakfast, but it could also be a nice snack, especially for kids, or even a dessert. So I've got a quarter cup of dates, which is there were 5 deglet dates, or about 3 big medjool dates, half a cup of almond butter, and I'm going to do half a cup of water as well. Again, I take out the water, so always starting with a little less, and we can add more if we need to. And then this on, start it low. So it's still fairly low volume here. So the dates were just taking a little bit longer to fully get blended with everything else, but I didn't want to make this too thin. You got to find an in between that's really nice. And I'm going to try this a little cinnamon, or if you're someone that likes cacao, if you're going to have cacao in your diet, use it at the beginning of the day so it gets you going rather than at nighttime, which is typical. We just add it to desserts and then we have it right before bed and we're up all night. So a little cacao, cinnamon, vanilla, a lot of things that you could add for this. It's so good. But it's going to be a little bit hard to pour. So I was tasting to see how the flavor was. Can't go wrong, dates and almonds. Of course, by blending this, I am increasing the calorie density. So this is the part of this bowl that I said was going to be a little bit more decadent. And if you don't want the decadence, you could still do the flavor with just diced up dates and sprinkled almonds. All right, let's go. Great. Okay. And I'm gonna pour. Let's put this in a little container and give you a better idea of what the consistency is here. So this is like a very thick dressing or a sauce. And again, this is just almond butter and dates. So it's very versatile. This could be, if you have more than you need in the moment, like I just did, this can be a base for other things. This could be a base for your dressings. It could be a base for sauces, even for, you know, like a sauce over pasta, like a cream sauce. You're not going to have the white color, but could make a nice cream sauce. So, and by using this as a base for, like I said, dressings, you can add the vinegar and citrus, and the dates that were added to this will help to balance the acid. Okay, so it's a great versatile base for many things. Now our yam here, this time we're going to add in some flaxseed first. Okay, and it's great to get about a tablespoon of flax or chia seed every single day if your body, if you're okay with that fat, which I think when you're getting omega-3s in a whole fat form, I think that amount of flax and chia is great for almost everybody. Or hemp seeds. Again, hemp seeds are fantastic too. And I'm going to add, on top of the flax, I'm going to add in my apple here. So I have my chef's knife here. We're gonna cut this up. Oh. And my cores, I always eat my cores before tossing them. You know, just get as much of the fruit as I can. All right. Yeah, the dressing is not in the recipe. You know, I'm used to making my dishes for our patients at True North Health Center. True North Health Center, if you're not familiar with it, is a fasting, medically supervised water fasting center in Northern California. And not only is it whole food plant-based, so we're teaching them lifestyle medicine in addition to the water fasting and some other medical therapies, but in addition to the whole food plants, it's actually sugar, oil, and salt free. So it's very pure whole foods. And there we were always teaching the most optimal diet, and thus my recipes were very whole food, and also not just whole food, but over the years, because I would start with desserts. I would start with my banana bars. If anyone's been at True North years ago, you might have even seen those, experienced those. And I would make cake, and I would make all these desserts that I really thought were important for people learning how to eat this way and sustain the diet. And I still think that's the case. But over the years, I saw more and more people that were just stricken with the chronic disease and the weight issues. And rather than kind of draw them in with the most, the richest form of the plant-based diet, the whole food plant-based diet, SOS free, I wanted to be more supportive in helping you learn how to make the food a little less calorie dense, a little less processed, but still really high in flavor. And so through that process, I kind of got used to preparing recipes, but also eating this way myself, where I would have the items as whole as possible and not worry about your step of processing it into a creamy sauce like I have here, because I just enjoy this flavor so much and conservation of energy, right? As I enjoy making flavor, I also want to be outside of the kitchen, living my life and doing other things. So I to enjoy, by resetting my taste buds and my microbiome, enjoy the foods in their whole form, and I didn't need this type of thing. But you know what? When you're making stuff online like this and recipes and everything, the decadence, even through a photo, the decadence makes all the difference in drawing people in. So especially when your taste buds aren't reset yet. So this is something I just thought of before the recipe was sent out. I wanted to show you an option and to make it a little more fun too, especially with kids who might need more calories depending on what they're eating. And so I'll tell you again what is in here. This little sauce I made is just half a cup of almond butter, quarter cup of dates. Deglet dates are the ones I use, so 5 Deglet dates. And we did half a cup of water as well. Okay, simple. If you wanted to, you could add other seasonings like cinnamon, cacao, or vanilla would all be great options. And I added here, I think that's good to go. How about a little more cinnamon on top? Again, any questions? So we might have just had a little blip in my internet connection, got lost, but hopefully you're back. I was just saying how much better this is than a stack of pancakes. So much more nutrition. You're gonna feel fantastic afterwards. Again, many different options on how you could do this. And I used apple and pear today, which are very light in color. It's a nice contrast to the orange, but go with whatever's in season. You could add kiwis or mangoes. Really any fruit will work. Bananas, berries. The sweet potato is a starch, and the fruit is also a carbohydrate, but the sugar again. So they work really well together. They'll be easy to digest in your body when consuming any type of fruit with the sweet potato, okay? The nuts, again, that's, I don't want to get into food combining. I have very different, not different views. There's a lot of different evidence, and I can speak to different views and different opinions on that. So big conversation. Bottom line is, I hope you guys enjoy making these baked and loaded yams, and top what you like and top them with what's local and seasonal whenever you can. Okay, enjoy this breakfast, lunch, or dinner, even dessert, but make it work for you. And I hope you guys enjoy so much. Couple questions here. I have the bottom of the jar, 100% pure peanut butter, about 3/4 of a cup, and I just made a date paste yesterday. What would be the ratio? So with the date paste, it's hard to say how thick your date paste is, but if you wanted to do probably 1/3 date paste to 2/3 of the almond butter, okay? Because here I did, it was half dates to, actually it would be probably the opposite direction. Start with maybe 2 tablespoons of the date paste and half a cup of almond butter, okay? Because you're concentrating the dates. Hopefully that makes sense, but ultimately it's about your taste preferences. Any other questions? Why is honey a forbidden food? I actually don't have a forbidden food list at the Culinary Gym specifically, other than bright lines around sugar, oil, salt, highly processed sugar, oil, and salt, and it's whole food plant-based. But I have never specified specifically honey because there are opposing views. Most people would say, like someone mentioned in the comments, honey's not vegan. I have some people that would argue, though, that it is more supportive to the bees, just like keeping our dogs domestic is actually supportive to the dogs. You know, it's it's up to you, I think, ultimately. But if you're going to do any honey, I would highly recommend getting the best source from a nutrition standpoint, and because the argument would be that you're supporting the bees. You want to be really taking care of the bees. I know many conventional mainstream sources of honey, they're actually feeding the bees corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, so that it makes the honey sweeter and it's cheaper for the farmer or for the beekeepers. So definitely check your sources. And ultimately, as much as I'm vegan and I promote a vegan lifestyle for the animals, for the environment, and for our spirituality too, it's up to you. And I don't think this is an all or nothing. I'd rather bring people in, enjoy more garden fresh ingredients, and learn how to make delicious flavor without the junk food. That's what I want more than anything. And so just let your friends and family know that if they're wanting more plants in their diet, you don't need to say that we're vegan if that's going to turn them off. If that's something that will help bring them in, of course, let them know that we are indeed 100% plant-based and thus vegan. So I hope it's all good. How many mid-jewel dates? We did 5 deglets, so about 3 mid-jewel dates, depending on the size. Let your taste buds be a guide. Thank you so much, everyone. I think I got all the questions here. I'll see you again for another episode next Thursday. If you want to join us for a math show, I do a cooking show every Wednesday as well for my members. So you can check out the Delicious Leadership. A link to that is in the description. If you haven't gotten the recipe yet, as I mentioned earlier, you can get it through the link in the description as well for the featured recipe, and I'll send you a downloadable recipe. And you'll find out about my cookbooks that are coming out this weekend, my e-cookbooks. They're going to be fantastic, and you can use them on your phone. You can get the PDF on your phone, and then you can look at them when you're in the grocery store. You can print them out and put them in a PDF or a binder with plastic sheets so that you can easily sort through when you're in the kitchen. That way you don't have to be at the computer. Or for those tech savvy, you can just save that PDF file to your computer and pull it up right away. And in case we ever get the internet down, you have all those recipes right at your access. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. Bon appetit. Enjoy. I'll see you next week. Have a delicious weekend.